Number one team because I'm going off of what LeBron says of happiness and being able to win a ring. And the team that has won the offseason so far has definitely been the Philadelphia 76ers. They just got Jaylen Brown, who we will talk about here in a minute. Got Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid. He don't even have to play a whole season. Like Joel Embiid, just be healthy by playoff time. Welcome to the Fourth and Fast Break Podcast. I'm your humble, delighted, and always blessed host, Joshua McCain. And on today's Monday, July the 27th edition, I'm going to talk about the LeBron James decision. Was it the right decision? And also, is Steph Curry actually getting any type of help? Now, the first clip you saw before, as we started up this podcast, it was from the LeBron James episode that I had, and I was talking about his 5 destinations that I thought he could go to that would fit him having fun and wanting to win the ring. And my number one pick was this Philadelphia 76ers, in which he decided to go play it. But over the past few days, on social media and on TV, we've been hearing about this whole ring chasing deal with LeBron James. And I'm just here to say this now. For a guy that's about to be 42 years old by the time All-Star break happens in his 24th season, and we're saying he's ring chasing. A guy who already has 4 rings, I might add. I can see if he's going into his 24th year, he has no rings. He hasn't won or he hadn't won a ring since 2009. But I think it's time for people who say he's ring chasing, they have to admit something. They have to admit one or two things. One, he's still playing at a high level, and you still think he can lead a team by himself or as the main guy. Or two, what you have to admit is you're just hating him at this point, because at the age of 42, do you think he's that big of a player that he has to like ring chase with another team? Like, does he make a team a super team? Is Philadelphia a super team before he goes there? I don't think they're a super team before he goes there, because Joel Embiid is not going to be healthy. So I wouldn't characterize them as a super team. I think they have 2 really talented guys, Tyrese Maxey and Jaylen Brown, and then VJ Escombe. He's coming up his rookie year. He had a really good rookie year, but we don't know if he's going to be an upper echelon type of guard in the league. In today's report, they're saying LeBron James, they're expecting him to play point guard for the 76ers. So this is not a super team in my opinion. I think it's a really good team to where, like I said in the LeBron James episode, that LeBron can just sit back and let some of those guys take some of the pressure off of him. Because if you're expecting LeBron James to still be the LeBron James in year 24, age 42, it's not happening. And I just think a lot of people, and Charles Barkley came out and said, he's always stacked his team. But then Charles Barkley's probably not the best spokesperson, because Charles Barkley goes to a Phoenix team that had been in the conference finals 3 years before he got there. He had all-NBA player in Kevin Johnson. He had Darren Marley, who was a really good defensive player, an all-star. So he came on, and yes, he put him over the top, but he didn't leave, he didn't oblige his contract. He got traded. He forced his way out of Philly. And then he goes to Houston and stacks the deck up there with Scottie Pippen and Hakeem Olajuwon, 2 other top 75 players of all time. And at the time, they were top 50 players of all time, all 3 of them. So the spokespeople for saying LeBron James is ring chasing are not the best. And but once again, he's 42 years old. Like, I think we're missing the point here. He's in year 24. He's literally at the back 9. He's at the last couple holes of his career. At 18 holes, he's at hole 16 and a half. He's almost done with hole 16. He's going on to hole 17. So this notion of him ring chasing to Philly on a team that just basically got put together because Jaylen Brown, he just getting that. LeBron's just getting that. So they're adding 2 other good pieces. Don't get me wrong. Jaylen Brown, all-NBA guy, all-star, multiple-time all-stars. Had a really great season last year. Finished top was it 6 in the MVP voting. So, but this is a new team. We know Joel Embiid is not going to play, I would even say 60% of the games. Maybe he might hit 50% threshold, but he's probably not going to hit, so, and VJ Escombe, he still has something to prove. So what I think LeBron James is doing is he's not putting his money on Joel Embiid throughout the regular season. He's putting his money on Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, and VJ Escombe throughout the regular season. The money he's putting on Joel Embiid is just like in the Olympics. I just need you, big fella, I just need you for 16 more wins. And that's when we get to April and it's time for playoff time. I just need you for 16 more wins. Now, how many games we play, I don't know. But I just need you for 16 wins, and that gets us an NBA championship. That's all. Just like in the Olympics. We needed you for the preliminary rounds, the knockout round, and, got to the championship rounds. That's where you need Joel Embiid. And like I said, the game versus Serbia where he stepped up big time, he was looking like a shell of himself out there. He stepped up versus Serbia, and they beat, Jokic in Serbia when it looked like Serbia was about to upset, probably the biggest upset of all time had they beat USA that day. With so much star power on that team it was. So I don't agree with the notion that he's ring chasing because he's about to be 42 years old. He's in year 24. What else is there to do? There's no need for him to be a number one guy and have to go out there and carry the load. It makes no sense. Where did people want him to go? Sacramento? Did they want him to go to, Charlotte? To expect him to be the number one guy? No, he has no choice. His choices of going to Minnesota, Philadelphia, Miami, Cleveland. Golden State, he had to do something. Something had to happen. It had to give. Now, speaking on Golden State, I did some research because there's reports coming out that Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, are planning to build in the post-Steph years. But I had what's the word I'm looking for? Epiphany. That he's not even doing right in these Steph Curry years. Because after 2019, things hit the fan. So when KD got hurt and they lost to Toronto, the roster hasn't really been built well. They won the championship in 2022 after they beat Boston. And that kind of felt like, Golden State's not going anywhere. Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and then that all season in 2020 was going to 2022, going into 2023. Poole gets punched by Draymond Green. Andrew Wiggins is going through personal problems. Klay Thompson starts to get worse because we knew even during that playoff stretch he wasn't the Klay Thompson that we have seen over in his career, and it got worse, and it was literally just Steph having to be Superman like he was in the finals at times. He had to be really, really the carrier of that team. And Andrew Wiggins, he came along, and they had, Jordan Poole, they stepped up, but it was the Steph Curry show. But I want to talk about Steph Curry and how these years stack up with some other guys who are going into year 18 like Steph is and played on one team, and what their franchises did for them going into year 18. So I'm going to start off here. I'm going to talk about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant coming off of 2012-13, which was his 17th year, his age 34 season. Played 78 games. He was 5th in the MVP. He had 27 points a game, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. He shot 51% from the field, 32% from 3. He was 5th in the MVP voting. And the Los Angeles Lakers, the Busses, Mitch Kupchak, they said, we're going to go out and we're going to sign. And these are the names. Dwight Howard, coming off a 20 points and 10 rebound season, all-star in Orlando, finished 9th in MVP. Steve Nash, he finished 5th. Steve Nash, 12 points a game, 10 assists, an all-star, finished 9th in MVP voting. Antoine Jamison, coming off of 17 points a game, and then Jody Meeks was a sharpshooter shooting at 36% the year before. These are all the previous year from 11-12 into 2012, well, to next year to 12-13. They added those four guys. Like, they were trying. Dirk Nowitzki, he did 20 years in one place. His year 17 year was 2014-15. He had 17 points a game, 6 rebounds. He shot 38% from three, 48% from the field. Now they added Wesley Matthews, 15 points a game, 38% from three, 52% from the field the previous year. And Darren Williams, a former All-Star, got bought out by the Nets. He's coming with 13 points a game, 7 assists, and shot 36% from the three-point line. Like, those were two names, and they had already had guys, but those were two names like they were trying. Like, these were guys who were really above average starters to really good starters, especially Darren Williams still having some left in him. And then Tim Duncan, who played 19, 20 seasons with San Antonio, just one franchise. He came off of that 2013-14 season. They won the chip. He came off of 15 points, 10 rebounds, 50% from the field. They ran it back, but it made sense because they had just beat Miami in the NBA Finals. So they ran it back with Parker, Ginobili, Kawhi. So it made sense. But then the next season, 2015-16, they add LaMarcus Aldridge. So they did everything in their power they could. Steph Curry's best player that they've added in the last 4 or 5 years is Jimmy Butler. Well, now Jimmy Butler's coming off of a ACL injury. He tore his ACL in January. No telling when he's coming back. He's getting older. I think Jimmy Butler's 35, 36. So he's getting older. So he's not going to heal as fast or as well as he once would. And your second best player you've added that's on the team now, Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis, he has not, if we've had the 65 game threshold since he started in the league when he got drafted in 2015, if that threshold was going on from the time then he started to now, he's hit it 3 times out of his 10-year career. 3 times he's played 65 or more games. 3 times. So we know that ain't happening. Like that's not happening. And that's what you're banking on, because look at their roster now. They have it's Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler's coming off an injury. You're going to re-sign Draymond. It's Guy Santos. It's the it's Moses Moody probably not gonna play this year. The cupboard's bare, Golden State. And they're saying they're focusing on the post-Steph years, but in the in-between time from the last time you won a championship till now, and even a couple years before that, they've messed it up. We can go back to 2020. They picked James Wiseman in 2020 with the second pick. He ended up out the league within 4 or 5 years. In 21, they had 2 first-round picks. I'm going to talk about that a little more extensively. They got John Kuminga at the 7th pick, and they got Moses Moody at the 14th pick. We know Kuminga, it did not work out for whatever reason. Steve Kerr and him didn't see eye to eye. The franchise didn't see eye to eye with him. Moses Moody has been a solid, below average starter, above average off the bench guy. It just hasn't been, it hasn't registered to what, picking him in the lottery. And in that year, a lot of people were saying, well, let's trade this pick. We had 2 first-round picks. Let's trade them. The guys that I went and looked up that could have been available and I think were, somewhat available. Bradley Beal, he was coming off 31 points a game in Washington. They were rebuilding. Pascal Siakam, he was coming off of a 20-point per game season. They were rebuilding. Dame Lillard, not sure could they, made the deal happen, but we know, at that time, Portland was, no longer just killing it. They were no longer making the playoffs. So, and then the Miles Turners and Domantas Sabonis. Miles Turner at the time was, borderline all-star, and Sabonis at the time was one of the better, passing big men in the league, one of the better offensive threats. and they had those chances to you could have traded 2 first-round picks to get one of those guys, and you didn't do it, and you stuck and you picked, and those two guys, one of them we know for sure hadn't panned out, and the other one he's been an average player for the Warriors. In 23, they drafted Brandon Podziemski. Now, in 2024, Brandon Podziemski was one of the untouchables for the Golden State Warriors. And Paul George talks, and going into the summer of 24, Paul George was coming off a 22 points a game season, shot 52% from the field, 41 from three. He made another All-Star game. That would have been a perfect plug-and-play player right there for the Warriors and Steph Curry. And then Larry Marketing was a year removed from making the All-Star game. He was coming off a 23 points per game season, 8 rebounds, 55 from the field, 39% from three. But they made Brandon Podziemski untouchable. So the very next season, they then traded for Jimmy Butler, for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and then a first-round pick, a protected first-round pick. And it looked like it was going well. The Jimmy Butler thing was working. They had game one versus Minnesota in the second round, and then Steph got hurt, and then they didn't win another game. They ended up losing in 5. But we're talking about he's going to build for the post-Steph era. But you just have Steph Curry right there, who is still averaging 26 points a game. He's still shooting lights out from 3. He's still the biggest threat on your team. He can still do it at a high level, even coming in to be 38 years old. But you're failing him. You said, well, we're going to try to do better. We're going to try to make it better. I've been here in the last 4 or 5 years. We're going to try to get better around Steph. We're going to try to get better around Steph. And it's like you've done everything to not get better around Steph. I named you 3 other players that's played, 18 plus years at one franchise, one organization. And as the years dwindled on, the teams tried to get better. Like, the teams tried to do more for those guys. Kobe Bryant, the year they got, it didn't work with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash and Antoine Jameson, but they tried. Tim Duncan, the Marcus Aldridge thing, it didn't work, but they tried. He ended up retiring that first year DeMarcus Aldridge was there, but they tried. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. They made it to the semis and lost to Oklahoma City. And so it's not for the lack of trying. Like these guys, these organizations tried to build something around their franchise cornerstone. You're telling me Steph Curry can get one more shot at this? Joe Lacob, you're telling me now, Steph Curry, you have to build for after Steph Curry, and I get that. But you're not building after a guy who's barely getting 17, 18 points a game like Dirk Nowitzki and Tim Duncan was going into year 18. No, you're building around a guy who's still averaging 25 plus points a game. This guy deserves to still get built around. It doesn't make sense to build around a post-Steph when current Steph is still an all-star player and an all-NBA type of player. That just doesn't make sense. So Joe Lacob has to look in the mirror and say, look, we got one more shot at this. We got one more shot to try to make something happen. And I know they, went after, according to reports, went after LeBron James. And maybe not getting LeBron James said, well, let's just pivot to post-Steph things. And I'm not saying Steph Curry should, ask for a trade, because Steph Curry is the Warriors. When you think of the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry is the face of that franchise. And it would always be that way unless a player comes in and is better than Steph Curry and does something to transform that franchise, because that franchise, from what I remember, was a scrappy team that, upset Dallas in the first round in 2007. The We Believe Warriors. That's all I knew. I didn't know Rick Barry as a player. I knew him for underhanded grandma layups. Free throws. And it was a team that hadn't won a championship since, was it 1970? Before they won in 2015, they hadn't won one in almost 50 years. So Steph Curry is your franchise. Kobe Bryant was the face of the Lakers, and they had to say, "Hey, we're going to do as much as we can as the years dwindle down." Tim Duncan was the face of the San Antonio Spurs' franchise, even with Iceman George Gervin, even with David Robinson. Tim Duncan, you are the face. You are the face behind the 5 championships that we have. Dirk Nowitzki, you are the face of the Dallas Mavericks. You brought us the 1 championship, but that 1 championship was in a year that nobody thought you would win. The teams you had to go through to win it, nobody thought you were going to beat all 3. They beat Portland in the first round. We expected that, but they didn't think you were going to beat Dallas. The Lakers. They really didn't think he was going to beat the young OKC Thunder. They thought they were going to, get ran off the floor. And they for sure did not think they were going to beat the Miami Heat, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. So what you do for guys like that, I wouldn't say just a slap in the face to Steph Curry, for what the Warriors want to do, because it makes sense. It's understandable. But it's understandable if Steph Curry is no longer Steph Curry. He is still Steph Curry. That's why it doesn't make sense to me. So that's what I have today for you. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And we'll be back Wednesday. I'm going to talk a little NFL because all 32 training camps will be open. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other.